Hello everyone. Yeah, I've decided this week I'm just going to do this discussion video along with the No Time to Die spoiler-free review. So yeah, this one will be on the most recent Marvel series, What If. So I guess this one will have its own individual review. Maybe eventually I'll get to the other series, who knows, but near the end of the year when Hawkeye is wrapping up, I definitely want to do a 2021 Marvel Disney Plus review series, so I'll probably review them all. So anyway, for right now, let's review What If. So yeah, the series starts off with an episode that was a nice little variation on what could have happened in Captain America the First Avenger. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the most underrated films in the MCU. But yeah, this one goes over a scenario where Steve Rogers didn't get the super soldier serum, and in his place it was Peggy Carter who took it and became Captain Carter. And after that, very similar events to the first Avenger happened, with a few variations here, while Peggy also deals with the time period of the 1940s because it wasn't the most accepting for women. So thought that was a real interesting angle, seeing Captain Carter. So here's a few images of her, and definitely like this character. And if she's brought into the main timeline somehow, that'd be pretty nice too, especially if Hayley Atwell gets to play her, since at this point in time she really has no place in the MCU after Steve Rogers finishing off his character arc. But yeah, here's Captain Carter. So yeah, and Captain America ended up, or Steve Rogers I should say, ended up wearing this big bulky armor that looked like Iron Man's first armor, but instead it was called Hydra Stomper. And yeah, pretty much it's just the two of them for most of the episode, teaming up to bring down the Red Skull and Arnim Zola. One interesting variation was freaking Captain Carter got Arnim Zola like immediately. It wasn't like near the end of the second act or the third act like in the first Avenger, so I thought that was an interesting variation. And Red Skull in this timeline wasn't obsessed with the Tesseract and all that. He wants to bring this tentacled monster, which if I got a good enough look at it in this episode, it's a villain from Doctor Strange. I don't know the name of the villain, but it's a villain from Doctor Strange. But yeah, I liked, I guess I'll comment on this too. I'm glad Hayley Atwell got to voice her, because that's one thing about this series. Some of the cast members of the movies came back, others didn't. And definitely feel some voice actors, definitely, if they were replacements, they sounded almost spot on to who they were playing, and others you could tell it wasn't them. But when it was the actual actors, gosh, it was so nice. And so glad Josh Brolin came back for Thanos in the following episode. Same thing with Chadwick Boseman for his final performance. Rest in peace, Chadwick. Or I should say, rest in power, Chadwick. Wakanda forever. But yeah, he also appeared in a few other episodes. But yeah, guess here's a few other images from the episode. And the last thing I gotta say too, Nick Fury and Jeremy Renner make an appearance at the end as Nick Fury and Hawkeye from the opening scene in the Avengers, because the big sacrifice Captain Carter makes is going through a portal to fight the tentacled monster, and then she comes out in this timeline to a similar point where Captain America came out in the main MCU timeline, that being around the time of the first Avengers movie. So there's that. I guess so I don't elongate this video for longer than it needs to be, and also to hopefully keep it around the same length as my No Time to Die spoiler-free review. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the next few episodes. I may just sum them up, because there was one episode which I don't have much to say on, but it did tease something to the finale that was really cool. Anyway, the next episode was What If T'Challa became Star-Lord, and this brought who I hinted at, reformed Thanos, where he brings up an argument to him on the way he wants to take out the universe, and Thanos reforms and becomes a hero, as this Star-Lord is T'Challa. But yeah, it led to a real great plot with the Grandmaster, or no, he wasn't the Grandmaster, it was the Collector. Fuck, they're brothers. I sometimes I can't tell them apart. But anyway, yeah, Nebula is also in it, and she's not all mangled and fucked up like in the main movies, where her body's mostly cybernetic and whatnot. In this one, her body's all her natural self, and she even has nice long blonde hair. And I guess I'll give some credit. I don't know how I can on YouTube, but Gracie the cosplay lass on Instagram, and Only Alley Cat, Allie Williams. Oh my gosh, your cosplays of What If Gamora and What If Nebula were spot on. I don't want to call them cosplays. Those were just straight up transformations. Like, cosplay does not do what you two did justice. That was just simply wonderful. And just thought I'd say that right there. Like, you seriously look better than both Karen Gillan and Zoe Saldana. Like, you look better than the actresses playing them. That's a big accomplishment right there. But yeah, guess all I have left to say is T'Challa definitely had a nice, interesting personality, like Star-Lord. But yeah. So here's a few images from that episode, and then I'm gonna go ahead and just probably speed round through the next few. So after this episode, it's probably my least favorite episode. Not that it's a bad episode, I just really... Something about the concept of this episode just bugged me. It's hard to explain, but this one is what if the Earth's mightiest heroes were taken down before their time. So in this one, Hank Pym becomes a villain as Yellow Jacket. He turns himself microscopic and he picks off all the main 6 Avengers minus Captain America. And frames them to make it look like murder and suicide. And Scarlett Johansson isn't back to voice Black Widow, unfortunately. It's Lake Bell. But Lake Bell, surprisingly, her voice sounds real similar to Scarlett's. I'm really impressed with how she did it, because I thought Scarlett's voice was one of a kind and hard to replicate. I almost thought her voice was like a female Freddie Mercury, just not a singer. How do you replicate it? Her voice is just so distinct. I mean, shoot, look at her voice acting appearances in the Jungle Book remake, and Sing, and... oh, and she played Mindy in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. But, yeah, anyway, basically all the Avengers get picked off from Iron Man in Iron Man 2 when Scarlett Johansson, when Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, injects that little lithium thing into him. Hank kills him when that happened. And Hawkeye kills Thor when he forces him to launch an arrow at him, and then Hawkeye kills himself. Or he frames it to make it look that way. Loki wants revenge, comes in and helps Nick Fury take him down, because Black Widow also gets picked off while figuring out who was doing it. And so does Bruce Banner Hulk. It was also nice to see Betty Ross finally referenced again in the MCU also. But yeah, it leads to this climax where they're all fighting up against... where Loki replicates Nick Fury a bunch of times and he captures Hank Pym. And then Nick Fury gets into contact with Captain America and Captain Marvel to be who he has left to be the Avengers. I mean, it had a great story, I'll admit that. I kind of like the what if with superheroes plot, or not what if, the whodunit aspect of it. Almost kind of like Knives Out with superheroes, kind of, but something just bugged me about how all the heroes just got picked off. Like, oh god, it just, yeah, this episode's not in my top, like, 4 or 5 of this season, but let's just say the next one is. So here's a few episodes from that, and this next episode is What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart, or as I like to call it, the Doctor Strange Character Study. So this one deals with an alternate reality where when Stephen Strange in our MCU timeline drove to himself to the party that he was supposed to go to, he brings Dr. Kristen Palmer with him. And so glad Benedict Cumberbatch, Tilda Swinton, and Rachel McAdams all came back because they gave their A game. And holy shit, Benedict Cumberbatch, not only great in the live action MCU movies, but just his voice acting in this episode was wonderful too. But yeah, in this one, he can't reverse what happened, so he loses it. And after that, he tampers with some dark magic that can destroy the fabric of reality and unleashes this dark side of himself. And he kind of becomes a monster with all these dark creatures. And let's just say, let's put a pin in this character because he'll be back later. But yeah, it's also interesting how he sees the Watcher after he's tampered with reality after trying to bring back Dr. Palmer. And liked how he said when he realized what he had done, he was like, torture me, please, torture me. I deserve to be punished for what I did, but don't hurt her and don't hurt my reality. And then the Watcher's like, I only observe. I can't interfere, which is an interesting part. Side note, I guess I might as well talk about Uatu. So yeah, this is based on the What If comic where Uatu watches alternate realities from the Marvel Universe. He's one of this group called the Watchers who just watch things happen but doesn't interfere, even though there are times in the comics where he does break that rule. But yeah, he is a very interesting character. And it's confirmed that Stan Lee is a Watcher. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it was confirmed how he made all his cameos across all the movies and shows and whatnot. He's a Watcher. He just changes into someone else to watch as the MCU unfolds. Rest in power, Stan Lee. Gotta say that yet again. And I'm wearing the Stan Lee shirt. The shirt I've had for a few years of him. So, yeah, but anyway, overall, love the concept of this episode, and it really brought some depth to Doctor Strange. It was also nice when Dark Doctor Strange and just the regular good Doctor Strange, it shows two paths. One, who he moved on from Kristen Palmer's death, and he used it to make himself better, and then the other one, who's Dark Doctor Strange, just became evil. Well, unintentionally evil, because what he tried to do was with good intentions, but I guess as the old saying goes, the path to hell is always done with good intentions. So yeah. Anyway, I guess here's a few images from that episode, and then let's go ahead and go on to episode 5. So up next is the zombies episode, and then another episode called What If Killmonger Saved Tony Stark. So anyway, for this one, it focuses on Bruce Banner in Avengers Infinity War when Heimdall sent him back. But this one asks what if it was a different Earth he returned to. So in this Earth, from the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Hope Van Dyne comes back to save her mom, but her mom got infected with a zombie virus. And it causes a major outbreak. All the original Avengers are dead, and Bucky survives. And there's even an interesting part where Bucky kills him, and he's like, I guess that's the end of the line, pal. A nice little reference to the Winter Soldier. Love that reference. But yeah, Spider-Man's also in it, but not voiced by Tom Holland, probably due to the Sony contract. So what can we do? But yeah, he also name drops Uncle Ben, so all the morons can stop saying, Uncle Ben isn't a part of the MCU. When it's like, yeah, no, this episode clearly confirmed he is. Shoot, I kind of like that theory that the MCU Uncle Ben is the one who introduced all the popular pop culture references that Tony Stark makes. He watched the movies with him. He watched Spider-Man and Aliens with Peter Parker. I kind of like that reference, that theory. Anyway, that aside, Wasp is also among the survivors, along with Bruce Banner, Hulk, and Spider-Man, Doctor Strange's cape. I don't think Doctor Strange survived, though. He was one of the zombies the Hulk fought in the beginning. But, yeah. Oh, and Scott Lang, Ant-Man, he survives, along with Vision. And there's a really interesting thing where Vision shows his love for Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, where he sacrificed survivors to try to feed her or save her. And he does try to make up for his mistakes, but it's kind of too late already considering what he did. But But yeah, also T'Challa appears again, voiced by Chadwick Boseman, which was a nice touch. Him with Wakanda. I forgot that Okoye is in this episode too. And Happy Hogan makes a brief appearance too, and same thing with Sharon Carter, but I don't want to say what happened to him because not knowing what happens to each character is kind of half the fun. And the ending to this episode, let's just say, teases a really interesting what if, which I hope gets followed up in season 2. So I guess all I got to say on the Killmonger episode is it kind of shows what happened if Killmonger was successful in taking over Wakanda, because he saves Tony Stark from his origin in Iron Man, where the bomb almost goes off, but he grabs it and throws it away and rescues him. He saves Stark, and Stark wants to honor him by having him work for Stark Industries, and he has a lot of shady deals, and Pepper's kind of catching up on him, seeing through his shit, which then leads to him having a deal with Ulysses Claw from Avengers Age of Ultron in a scene kind of similar to it, and he kills both Rhodey and Black Panther, T'Challa, and T'Challa takes over, and this one he takes over Wakanda after the US military is sent in, and he uses his technology, and he also kills Tony Stark behind Pepper's back secretly, and Stark figured it out, but with Jarvis, but it was too late and he killed him, which I kind of like, because this show establishes these like Nexus events that are events that can't be changed, and if they are, it will cause reality to collapse onto itself. So I kind of like this concept. It kind of explains why Tony Stark has to stay dead in the Prime MCU timeline. It's a Nexus event. Like, no matter what happens, the whole MCU is fucked if it gets changed. So I kind of like that idea. So that was a nice way of handling that. And with Natasha Romanoff, it was a sacrifice, so it can't be undone. And as Professor Hulk said, he tried to bring her back, but he couldn't due to it being a sacrifice. So, no matter the time travel or any of that other stuff. But, overall, it had an interesting concept. Probably in the middle of my favorite episodes of the season, so these last 3 episodes, one of them I don't have much left to say, and the other 2 are kind of connected, so I'm just going to go ahead and cover episode 7 and then get into the last 2, because similar to Rick and Morty season 5, the last 2 episodes are this one long arc. Anyway, here's a few images from those 2 episodes, and now let's go ahead and get on to the last 3. So the next episode is What If Thor Was an Only Child? So I guess this one focuses on if Loki wasn't Thor's adopted brother, and Loki in this universe is just a regular frost giant, and it brings in a lot of the characters from the Thor movies. And it is kind of just a big party episode with Darcy and Jane Foster, and I believe Natalie Portman came back to voice. Oh no, wait, it wasn't Natalie Portman, it was someone else. She just sounded very close to her. But I know Kat Dennings came back along with Chris Hemsworth. But Captain Marvel was in this too, and her voice actress was did a good job at sounding like Brie Larson. And this episode, I'll admit, one of the best parts, even though the plot didn't really seem all that eventful or interesting. It was nice seeing Thor and Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers fighting each other, and freaking it was so funny watching them punch themselves across various countries. I think first it was from like Germany to England, and then they fought at the Stonehenges, those little Stonehenges, which just recently had their purpose figured out. And then I think for the last one, Carol punches Thor all the way to the United States, and God, it was just such an interesting fight, and seeing just her getting fed up with this Thor shit, because this Thor is just really party Thor. He isn't like our Thor, who, yeah, he likes to have a fun time and joke around, but when he needs to get serious, he'll get serious. But yeah, this one is just, that side of him just gone. But yeah, this episode also ended with a tease of something I liked, where it teased a Ultron fused with Vision, and that was an interesting concept. So let's put a pin in that because that's going to become important in the next 2 episodes. So anyway, here's some images from episode 7, and now we're going to be on episode 8, What If Ultron Won, and What If the Watcher Broke His Oath? So yeah, this is the first of a arc, very much like Rick and Morty season 5. But this episode focuses on a reality like in Avengers Age of Ultron, where Ultron tried to hack into the nuclear security codes, but in that movie he wasn't able to do it. But this one, it's what if he did, and the whole world is just destroyed, and the only 2 survivors are Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, Clint Barton. But this one is them in a kind of Mad Max style apocalypse, and just them going around taking down Ultron bots and trying to bring back Arnim Zola so he can hack into Ultron and take him down, because this Ultron is like fused with Vision. And the Watcher is also watching as this goes down, and I guess after getting all the Infinity Stones, this Ultron gets he just becomes massively overpowered, and the Watcher doesn't know what to do. And I like a little line where he says, you see all these universes that you could have helped out or whatever, but you just watched. And then there's another universe too where Steve Rogers became president, so yeah, because Watcher and him are fighting across realities. And what I said to put a pin in earlier, here's where it comes into play. Dark Doctor Strange is who Uatu goes to in his time of need. And he says, I need your help. It looks like I'm going to have to break my oath. And then Dark Doctor Strange comes in. And now let's get to the next part of the episode, because this one may be my favorite episode. I don't know. It's bare minimum second, but the Doctor Strange character study, I really love that one. But this one is up there too. So the last episode is What If the Watcher Broke His Oath? But this one definitely had vibes from all 4 Avengers movies, with some major Avengers Endgame vibes and Guardians of the Galaxy, and elements of Black Widow. But yeah, it picks up from that universe where Ultron won, and after he's gone to reality, Natasha doesn't know what to do because Clint died. He sacrificed himself to save her, so she's all alone. And Dark Doctor Strange and Uatu decide to recruit the best of various realities, and they're called the Guardians of the Multiverse. Kind of like that concept. They're like the Multiverse Avengers / Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like a mashup of the 2. And there's also a new Gamora who has Thanos' armor from a reality where I guess Tony Stark must have been Thor in Avengers Infinity War. I don't know what went down with that, because we're getting that episode in season 2. But it basically brings up all the major players. Dark Doctor Strange, Captain Carter, Killmonger from the What If He Saved Tony Stark episode, Party Thor, and T'Challa Star-Lord. So yeah, they're all in it. And I guess can't really say much about the plot. There's not a lot to it, but it's in the execution that makes it great. And that's basically they are all teaming up to take down Ultron Vision. And holy shit hits the fan in this episode. They are throwing everything they can at him. Captain Carter gets in some nice licks. And it also shows a brief glimpse of her adjusting to her new reality, where I guess her and Natasha Romanoff in that reality are BFFs, and they basically have the dynamic of Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff that we know from the live action films, from like Captain America the Winter Soldier and Civil War and all them movies that they both had. So yeah. But anyway, let's just say a lot of this shit goes down, and Natasha Romanoff catches wind of what happens and contributes to the fight in her own way. It leads to a real great moment where she says, This Is for Clint, a pretty solid emotional moment. Kind of reminded me of the scene in Black Widow where her mother, or well, adopted mother, whatever you want to call her, Melina Vostokov. Okay, I don't know how well you can see her, but this is Melina Vostokov right here. And the figure looks pretty spot on to Rachel Weisz, too. But anyway, when she asked her, how did you keep your heart in spite of everything that the Red Room did to her? And it was a very solid emotional moment that kind of reminded me of that and gave echoes of it. But yeah, she's driving her motorcycle and launches this arrow that has Arnim Zola's consciousness in it, and he basically hacks Ultron and destroys Ultron. But Killmonger, in an obvious twist, but still interesting nonetheless, betrays the Guardians and fucking decides to take over the Ultron Vision hybrid. But then in the last moment, Uatu comes in, throws them in this little bubble where they're going to stay frozen in time, because they're like attacking each other, but they're staying frozen in time. And Dark Doctor Strange realizes, you had it planned, every minute of it, didn't you? But yeah, freaking let's just say that yeah, it was freaking a really solid finale. And then the last part of this is seeing Natasha Romanoff in that reality of that one talk to Uatu and call him out on his shit, saying, what are we, just chess pieces to you? Did you make popcorn when I watched all my friends die and all other tragedies that happened? And then he like offers her the door to go back to her timeline, but she didn't want to. And freaking what was I gonna say, also like all the other Guardians of the Multiverse go back to their own realities. And then Uatu's like, the door was just a metaphor anyway. And he basically throws her into the universe where they lost their Black Widow, the episode I wasn't too big of a fan of. But this kind of makes me appreciate it even more, because she comes in, Loki's trying to take down the few Avengers they got, and then she just comes in and fucking uppercuts him, and Loki's like, what the fuck? And oh god, such a great triumphant moment. But yeah, the post-credit scene ends with her going to see the armor of Hydra Stomper Steve Rogers from her timeline. So, which was a real nice, sweet little moment, not gonna lie. Very nice little wholesome moment. But guess that's my thoughts on What If Season 1. Favorite episode at this moment. It could change, but at this moment it's probably What If Doctor Strange lost his heart and instead of his hands, with second being the finale, What If the Watcher broke his oath. After that, I don't know my other rankings for that, but my least favorite is more than likely the one where the Avengers get axed off. Not that it's a terrible episode, I just didn't like the way it was handled, the execution. But I'm going to go ahead and do some speculation on Season 2, and that'll be it. So here's some from that finale. From everything I know on this, Season 2's already been written out. It's already been planned. And apparently with this season, there aren't going to be any majorly long arcs like the last 2 episodes. It's going to mainly be standalone episodes like the first 6 episodes. And it's going to bring in new characters also. I heard one episode is going to focus on Natasha Romanoff and Yelena Belova. So can't wait to see how that's going to happen, along with Shang-Chi and the characters from that. So it'll be nice to see that. Hopefully there'll be some more episodes that involve Spider-Man also. And yeah, thus far, I really like what they're doing. Whatever they come up with, it'll be probably really solid. So I guess all I gotta say is I hope they can get back as many of the actual actors as they can. Unfortunately, T'Challa has passed, so can't do that with Chadwick Boseman. But yeah, if they could bring in Scarlett Johansson to voice Black Widow, not that I didn't like Lake Bell, but since her and Disney settled their lawsuit, I wouldn't mind her coming back to voice her character, because she knows how to voice act. Her voice acting is just as good or on the same level as her live action acting. But yeah, shoot, bring in Florence Pugh to voice Yelena Belova, and David Harbour for Alexei, and Rachel Weisz for Melina, and you got me sold on that episode. And oh, one episode is also going to show how Gamora got her Thanos armor, so that's going to be nice that that'll be tied up also. So yeah, overall, What If was a real great series. I loved it, and for Marvel's first animated series, it was great. Definitely captured what I loved about the comic. Really love the style, too. It's very stylized, almost like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but with its own MCU flair added to it. So, guess that's all I got to say on it. So, watch What If you got Disney Plus, and like, comment, subscribe. Peace.